Um, when I resigned and I came to my store and wanted to put things together, I just realized that okay, this thing is finishing. Then I said, okay, where is this thing? How come it's finished? What is the quantity we use? Nobody could explain what we use. I said, so what did we use? Then then my attention went to milk at some point. So I said, okay, this milk, what did we use? And we could not explain what we used. Then I said, okay, what is the quantity of milk we use? And I realized that we buy milk in kg and we use it in cups in our recipes. So balancing it now becomes a problem because we are pouring it in cups and we are buying it in kgs. And because our recipe calls for cups. So I realized that, wow, until I'm able to convert everything I measure in my recipe to kg or grams or mils in that volume I am buying, then I will never be able to tell what's happening. I don't know if you have had this experience, but this was my own experience in 2023. And then I now said, okay, so how do I know what is going on here? And I think before I even resigned, I was already looking at my recipes and saying, how can I push it and put it in a format where I can digitally track it and do my pricing, because pricing was another problem that I had. I was saying, okay, how do we price this thing? How do I know the value to put on 1 teaspoon of baking powder? All of these things were just racking my head, and I just started the work. I started saying, okay, let me at least collate all my recipes, put it in one Excel sheet. I already had it actually. They are printed, they are laminated, they are in the store, but it was not collected in a way that I want to use it to make decisions. I want to use it to track my pricing. You understand? It was more like I designed a recipe for production to ensure quality. I always like feedback. Please, if you can hear me, just be responding in the chat that you can hear me so that I will know that I'm not talking. We're all still here, But, if what I'm saying makes sense, let me not just be talking, right? So I was like, so what's going on? So we started that thing and said, okay, let's try to put the recipe together. And that journey began. And now I realize that, I have to know my price. I have to have a way to dynamically put the price for things in my recipe. Then I now went for another training. Where they were talking about a solution that can help with pricing. I went for the training. The lady gave a fantastic presentation. Being an IT person now, I was listening. It was making sense. She was telling us that we can track our price changes with the solution. I said, okay. So I reached out to her. They dropped her phone number. They shared her phone number with us. And I reached out to her later and said, see, I like what you have done, but how does the price of all that I used to produce get into the system? Do you have a solution for that? And she told me there was no solution. I said, okay, if there's no solution to track my pricing of materials and everything, then how am I going to actually say I'm tracking my pricing and I'm real time really on this application? I said, no, all of these applications will be a waste of time and a waste of money until I'm able to control and know what exactly is costing me to produce one loaf of cake or 1 8-inch one layer. I need to know the effective cost of material, then move to other things. So that's how I started this journey. Then I identified recipe management as a very key thing to bakers. And I started asking people questions. I started saying, do you know about recipe management? What's the process for recipe management? And sincerely, very few people understood what I was saying. And I went online, I saw very few books or materials on recipe management. So I sat there and said, nobody's going to solve this problem for me. I have to solve it by myself. So I spent a lot of time in the past 1 year trying to understand my recipes and how to break them down to pricing so that I can say, okay, this is how much I'm spending for this. I can afford to lose 5K on this job. Let me just take it so that I'm able to buy fuel at least for my generator at the end of the day. Or I'm even be able to raise money to even that will pay their salaries. If there's no margin, at least can I pay salaries to keep the business going? And this was what led me to this. Okay, so recipe management, if you look at my screen, recipe management sits in the middle of everything we do. If you want to control quality, it's with recipes. The way you write your recipe will determine the quality of cakes that come out of your store. At a point, we're having problems with our red velvet cake. It'll be nice today, not very nice tomorrow. By the time I picked our recipe, I saw that the way it was written would be very confusing for anybody that did not go to school. Meaning that if someone does not go to school and is not very good at just taking instruction and following instruction, takes that recipe, that person will get confused. And that was really the problem we're having with the quality of our cakes in 2023. We were actually having 2022, 2023, we're having problems with people interpreting the recipe. Now we moved on from quality management, the pricing of the goods. We were not able to effectively price because our recipes, we could not narrow down to how much is a teaspoon of baking powder. Because you said you use 2 teaspoons of baking powder, then they just put one price, 20 naira. Will that 20 naira take care of the baking powder or not? We could not effectively tell. And we were not positioned to now even say we are doing price war or even promo. Because when I see people do promo, I'm always wondering, how do they know that they should give this amount of discount? So I needed to resolve that in my mind and understand it. Another problem we had was with training. We needed to have a good recipe management for training, because the recipe was now the material for training our staff. These are some of the core and then wastage management and material tracking. Oh, I bought a bag of flour. How did my bag of flour finish? Somebody say we made donuts, we made meat pie, we made this, we made that. Well, then again, you now say, let me sit down and try to bring it together and know what that means. It becomes confusing because we probably have it in a book. Me, for example, if I see a book, I'll start having a headache. I'll just be like, how do I read this book now? Oh my God. Maybe because I'm an IT person, right? But it's always stressful, to just start pressing the calculator, 1, 2, 3. Like what if you did like 50, 100 productions, So I didn't find this funny at all. And I found out that with proper recipe management, I can have a better way of even capturing what we are doing and use it to improve what we're doing in the bakery. So this is how I landed on this recipe management gist. And I found out that in the middle of everything we do is recipe, okay? And recipe will be linked to production process and procurement, all of those things, So how